Sejam bem-vindos a mais uma edição da DrwNNoise. DrwNNoise é um momento onde falamos de discos de vinil com boa música, com capas feitas com dizer por artistas e desenhadores. Hoje vamos falar do disco Sister Dynamite, da Alice Bag, e é com efeito Alice Bag que tenho aqui ao meu lado. Eu agora vou falar com a Alice em inglês. Espero que vocês entendam e conseguindo a conversa o melhor possível. Hello Alice.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'll try to do my best to make the questions in the correct English, but this could not happen. I know that you are here in Porto for a conference,
yes.
And the first thing that I thought is nowadays you are invited more to do those kind of jobs, the lectures, than make gigs or records.
I think right now I feel like I'm trying to retire. So I've moved to Mexico City. I'm living in Mexico City, and I moved there with the intention of just spending more time with my family. So I didn't immediately form a band, but I have started working with some young Mexican girls who are doing music with me. So we are doing music again.
Okay. How do you select those projects that you are collaborating? They come to you, or you know them?
Well, I think because I've been making music since the 70s, so I have a lot of friends who are musicians, and I know a lot of people in different countries who are musicians. So I feel like wherever I go, I always connect with people who are musicians who will volunteer to show me around the city, or even if I'm just there a few days, I find that there's community there.
It's the same here in Porto.
Yes.
We'll make a gig later on with Vitor Torpedo.
Right.
They saw that opportunity also, and they invited. Yes.
Yes, they invited me, and we've never played together. I haven't even met them. I haven't met anybody, not even Victor or the band. And the way things turned out, we will not have a rehearsal. We will step on the stage and make something happen. And it's pretty exciting that we can do that nowadays, right? You just communicate and send each other music. I think it's great that we can now have collaborations with people all over the world.
You think that this medium, internet, and the easy to make that music that way is the do-it-yourself in the 21st century?
It is one way to do it yourself. I mean, I think if you want to expand your network and expand your influences, it really couldn't be cooler than, collaborating with somebody who is in a completely different country and possibly working in a different language with a different background to really get a fusion of styles and traditions and influences. It's kind of cool.
I'm glad you are still working on music, because that's the way I know your work. We all hear about the Bags from the 70s and
yes.
Till 81, 82, more or less?
Until 80. We actually broke up in 1980.
It was a short period, but
yes.
It leaves a big mark. Why is that?
I think the reason that people still talk about us is because we were lucky in two ways, and that is that in 1978 we put out a single on Danger House Records, and some of the bands that were around did not have the opportunity to put out something tactile, an actual physical project, and that was a 45 on Danger House. And then later on we were part of a compilation called UCLA that had different groups from Los Angeles. And I think when you create something and leave it behind, it has a life of its own afterwards. We're also very lucky because my band got to be part of the decline of Western civilization, and that went on and also had a life of its own because it was seen all over the world. And even though that was not the original band, it no longer had Patricia, our bass player, who was a founding member of the band. It still helped us with name recognition. It helped me in many ways because later on when I wanted to do music, people had already heard that I was a musician. They were somewhat familiar with my work, so I could.
But you never stopped making music?
I never stopped making music. I think I didn't always make music that I was aiming at having popular or mainstream success. So I think sometimes I made music that was just like for me and my friends to play maybe small cafes or you know, more intimate setting. I wasn't always chasing like the goal of let's make a record and become very popular. I think sometimes it was like, I feel this music, I want to do this is really fun, I'm making something that I enjoy with people I like to be around. So that, I think, for a long time really was the focus of my art. And then as I got older, I started to see that people were writing books about punk. And when they were writing books about punk, they were focusing on male, white groups and artists, and I thought, this is not the punk I remember. Like, the punk I remember had a lot of people of color, a lot of women, so a lot of queers, and those people were not being documented. And I just thought, I got to do something about it. So I started writing, I started blogging, doing interviews with women in punk.
Returning to this record that brings us here, one thing that I was surprised is this is only the third solo album that you have.
Yes.
Why so late to put your name on the front cover like Alice Bag?
I think I was very accustomed to working in band situations where it's very much a collaborative project. And those were my first experiences, were working in bands rather than just doing my own thing. But I think as you know, I got a little more tech savvy. There's like I bought a $5 GarageBand app for my for my iPad, and I realized I can do multi-track recording, so I can write a song, I can do drums, I can do the bass, I can do the guitar, keyboards, horns, anything I want, I can put it on with this little app, and I can even, you know, sing my own harmonies. And so I started writing music that way. And again, that was mostly like every now and then I'd put something up on SoundCloud, but it wasn't really, I wasn't thinking in terms of making a record. And then I had this group from Texas named Fea, who asked me this group from Texas named Thea, who asked me to produce their record, and I had never thought of producing somebody else's record because I'd mostly just worked on collaborative projects where everybody had to say, like, I want my guitar louder, or I want more distortion, or I can't hear the snare, you know, like everybody would, all the members would co-produce. And then I thought, but I have a lot of experience. I've been doing this for a long time, so I said I would do it. So I worked with Fea, and the fact that they had faith in me meant a lot to me. It meant like they trusted me with their music, and I was motivated to record my own music and to co-produce, because I still wanted somebody who could have more objective ear to tell me, you're not, you know, you got to do this over or something, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the reason that I went ahead and did it late in life.
But you made music several very different styles. You have songs in very different styles. You do whatever you want. You think that is positive to produce another band's album, that you have a very big range of styles that you already worked with?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, I always have had, I think, pretty eclectic taste, so I like a lot of different styles of music. I mentioned earlier that like the roots of my punk rock are in ranchera music, just and Mexican pop. And my sister, who was a great influence on me, my older sister, listened to soul music. So, like a lot of other people have different references. They'll talk about, the people that I've seen interviewed, talk about like either British musicians or music from like Detroit or music from different parts. And for me, it's like I really do have my roots are in soul music and Mexican pop and rancheras. So that goes in there somewhere. I don't know if it comes out, but it comes out all mixed up and made into something different.
It's interesting in this record that I think all the tracks could be a single. It's very different from each other. A little bit different from each other. Is your goal that to do different tracks, or it take a long time to do this and you are feeling otherwise?
I feel like this is one of the most cohesive records. This one, I think.
Yes.
When I was working on this record, I actually thought I want a record that I could play with this band live, and the records that I've done in the past, like the last two albums, had either horns or cellos, violins, different things that are just like, I'm going into the studio, I'm going to use everything I want. And this one I tried to stick more with like, let's stick with the band, what everybody can play.
But it was in time. It was very quick to make this, or you took a long time to make this record?
I think I took about a year to write that record, and
it's a long time.
But when we were in the studio, we actually put like finishing touches on them. Some of the songs we've never played live, or we just recently we did our first show after pandemic, and we did, well, I say after pandemic as though it's over, even though I know we're still in the middle of it. But the first show after people were allowed to go out and have concerts again. Yes. And some of the songs were like, how are we going to do this live? We've only done it in the studio.
But the people that worked with you in this record are the same from the other two?
Yes. Yeah. I have a core band that I tour with. Yeah.
And you have, from album to album, you choose another person, another music for something specific?
This particular band, the bass player, David Jones, the guitarist, Sharif Tumani, and the drummer, Candace Hansen, have played on all three records, but they haven't played every song on all three records. So I usually, because, as I said before, I have such a long history of being a musician, I know a lot of great musicians, and I wanted to have them on my records. So on some, maybe on a track or two, there's a different bass player or a different keyboard player, a different guitarist, a different drummer. Everything got a little more switched up on the other records.
Okay. Your approach to these tracks is by the tunes or by the lyrics first? You have the lyrics on your mind since the beginning?
For me, I find that writing music and melody at the same time is easy for me, and what's most challenging for me is writing lyrics. So what I do now, what I used to do was write music and melody and then struggle to write lyrics. So what I do now is I just get the lyrics out of the way and and I take I'm not a poet, and I'm not a trained writer. I do use like certain tools to help me write. I do like, little bubble, and I write my idea, and maybe I write some couplets, and then I start working from there. Like, what do I want to say? And then sometimes I organize it too, like what I want to say in the first verse, what I want to say in the second verse. What is the bridge going to do? Is it going to change the feeling of the song? Is it going to do something? So I outline and I try and work on lyrics first.
Okay. You said you are not a poet. You never thought of publishing those lyrics that you have written all over these years?
No, I think for me, lyrics are made for the songs. They have certain places where they break that's meant to go to music. Some of the rhymes are meant to happen when something is happening with the music. So they're not really meant to be just read. They're meant to be listened to. And I don't feel like I am a poet. I mean, because I have respect for poets, and I've read lots of really great poetry. I feel like I wouldn't call myself a poet. I am a punk rock musician, and I use the tools at my disposal, which is, like I make it work. I make it work with what I have.
You never sang music with lyrics from another person, another author?
I recently did a cover of Head Over Heels by the Go-Go's. I was invited to do that by Mikey and his uke, that's what he does. He does covers, and he gets different people to work together, and that was really fun. But I usually write my own stuff. And in the bags, Craig Lee, who was the guitarist, really wrote most of the music in that band. I wrote very little. Patricia and I wrote very little in that band.
You said you are living now in Mexico.
I'm living in Mexico.
You have here 1 or 2 tracks sung in Spanish.
Yes.
We are expecting more Spanish songs in the future?
I hope so. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'd like to. I'm working with a group there called Lucia y los Alfileres, and it's really fun. We're writing songs together. It's more of a group thing again, where everybody, somebody will bring in like a guitar riff, and somebody will say, I have some lyrics, and
Okay.
So it's more of writing together, and it's not like this. It was like I sit at home and I write a whole song, and then I send it to the band. It also means that the band is more. There's more time to hang. It's not as with my band in Los Angeles. It's much more focused on let's get together, let's rehearse, let's work out all the subtleties in the music and everything, and then let's play a show. And I think with my band in Mexico, it's much more like, let's hang out, let's talk about what things are,
and see what happens,
what you're thinking, what you did last week, and then let's see, I have this idea, and they play a little piece of it, and somebody says, oh, that reminds me, I have some lyrics that I was thinking about. And so things work at a much slower pace, but it's also part of the process is just the hang, just getting to know each other and work together. Yeah. So it's different. They're both good. They're both good ways to work.
Yes, but you said in an interview that this could be your last record as Alice Bag, but now you have other projects. We can expect that the music never stops in your life.
I think the music never stops in my life, and there's been several times when I've said, I'm not going to make music anymore. That's it. I remember when I was in college, I'm like, I've got to focus on college, but I'm still in bands all the time. I think music has a way of finding me, and it's always there for me, so I need to give it its respect that it deserves. It's saved my life, and I can't imagine a life without music. So I'm not going to say I never will do another record, because I probably will.
Okay, that's good news. And the other good news is that this record has an incredible cover made by Gronk that I discovered in this record from Alice Bag. And what I want to ask you is why this particular painting that you choose to cover of the record?
Yeah, well, I knew I wanted to use Gronk's artwork because I'm a fan of his work. I've been following him for several years. I reached out to him and I said, would you be interested in doing an album cover? And he said, yeah, why don't you come over to the studio, let me show you around, and let's talk about what you want for the album cover. So, wow, I went to his studio and it was just incredible, just covered with art everywhere, on the floor, on the walls. Everything is just, you just walk into a Gronk painting. It was beautiful. I loved being there. And Is that going to be okay?
It's okay.
And we sat down, and so I was very drawn to his abstract work, but as I started talking to him, he started telling me about Tormenta, which is a recurring figure in his work, and it's this woman, and the back is also Tormenta. If you want to show the other side,
okay.
This is also Tormenta, and he told me. He asked me about Sister Dynamite, and I said, well, Sister Dynamite is inspired by different women in my life. One is a group that one is like it's not just one person, it's actually a group of women that I was working with in a group called Turn It Up, which was all about like lifting women's voices and amplifying them so that they could, their work could be heard. And but then there's also like other women that are just like out there doing the work that never get any recognition, and it's just, it's a woman who will light the fuse and like not take shit, right? Like, I'm not going to take it, I'm going to fight back. And then he said that his Tormenta was also a composite of different strong women that in his life, and also from literature, different women that he admired. And so I thought, it sounds like the same person, just two different artists thinking about this woman that's very powerful. And this particular painting spoke to me because I just felt like it's such a strong stance. She's just ripping those curtains. Either you could think that she's ripping them closed or she's ripping them open. I don't know. But she is obviously like just like all heat. Like, you are not going to put that out. And there's some kind of negative creature back here. To me, it looks, and this is my interpretation. I did not discuss this with Gronk, but it looks like there's somebody that has like a crown of thorns, and there's some kind of negativity there. And maybe she's either closing the door on it or she's exposing it and like letting it come out and dealing with it.
It's curious that you said that. I in this book that I read about Gronk's work from Max Benavides, he explains that Gronk created this character based in several women that he saw. Some are friends of his, Patsy Valdez from ASCO, Marisela North, the writer, a friend of him.
Yes.
And was also influenced by the movies that he liked a lot, like Ingrid Bergman, the Notorious from Hitchcock, Anita Ekberg, La Dolce Vita, Fellini, and Jean Moreau, in the movies of Antonioni. And the erratic figure is that we see here and here, still standing like a statue, is influenced by the cinematic of Resnais, the last year in Marianne Barre, and he took those all influences and create an icon. It's more very similar that why you are describing the title Sister Dynamite, and now I understand why you chose this character. You don't. This painting already exists. You didn't make that for this.
No, he did not make it for me. It already existed.
This in the 90s, in the Museum of Arts, Contemporary Art in Los Angeles. It's very big.
He works on a very large scale, and he has lots of tormentas at his studio. So it was really hard to decide. There are others that I really liked as well, but this one just felt like Sister Dynamite. Looks like she is a stick of dynamite, right? She's like.
See, the author of the book said that many people know this character, but don't know the rest of the work. He's Gronk is also a victim of Tormenta. That many people knows that, but the other side of his work is not so well known. There is a documentary about the Tormenta process, and I find the name very intriguing. Tormenta is a Portuguese word. Tormenta is a storm, is a tempestade. Tormenta.
Yes.
It's the same.
Well, in Spanish, it is both a storm but also torture.
Torture.
Right?
Ah, okay.
Yeah, like you can torment someone. You can. So
yes, in Portuguese it's more or less the same. A tormenta, yes.
So it could be a weather situation, but it could also be like something.
You said also that this painting is, you have this painting?
Yes, I that's at my house.
Yes, in your house. Yes, we saw that in YouTube when you present this record, and you see in the background that, that I don't know that it's yours. He said afterwards. So.
Yes, I mean, I would have my walls covered with with Gronk if I could.
He said that he has 2 more paintings in the 2 albums from a collective album, and a cover of a DVD of an opera he made, and a record from another musician, and this is the only one that has this character. Probably you. No,
I got
the Tormenta for you.
Lucky.
And he told that this character is like opened the doors for him. He is using this character to see his eyes. Nobody sees what he's seeing. And he draw in the back using these 3 forms: the square, the triangle, and the 2 circles that made this head. Always is these forms. And this character sometimes are pulling the string. The character is with and like this, and the shadows. And he said that he never told the Tormenta story in only one painting. We have to see all, and some he already never been drawn yet. So we have to see what Tormenta is taking us.
Where Tormenta's going next?
Going next.
What she's up to?
Okay. I know you're going to be 1 more day here in Porto.
Yes.
You've been here for Kismith conference that they have a cover with your drawing, a drawing of you.
I know. I wish I had my sunglasses. I'll put on yours so people can see the resemblance. These are yours.
Yes.
Okay. Wait. How's that? Does that look like me?
It's more like this. And today you have a concert here in Ferro Bar,
yes.
And what's next? What's your next project after this event? You go.
I am going back to. Well, I'm going to Lisbon.
Musically speaking.
Musically speaking, I don't know. I don't know what'll come my way, but I'm open to whatever possibilities. Just
Okay. And this was my last question.
Okay.
And I want to thank to Alice Bag to being here. We are in Ferro Bar in Porto. I wish to thank publicly also to Paula Guerra from Kismith that make this possible, make the connection. And it's always a pleasure to talk to the musician that made the record. I've been made that in the past with Portuguese musicians, of course. And we'll see you soon in the futures editions of DrwNNoise. When it's a place when we talk about records with scratches in the cover, not in there.
Not on the grooves.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you also to Paula Guerra and to Sofia Salsa for organizing this.
Okay, see you soon. E pronto, foi mais uma ação da DrwNNoise. Nós voltaremos a ver em novos projetos e de discos com riscos, e agradeço também a Alexandra Freitas, que fez a música de introdução do DrwNNoise. Alexandra, esta é para ti.
Ciao.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.